how to start a food truck business in Colorado, and how much does it cost to get a food license in Colorado. So if you're looking to create a food truck business in the state of Colorado, this video is going to give you an understanding of some of the permits, licenses, and other requirements you will need to get up and running. We're going to dive into that here on Food Truck Freaks, YouTube's premier food truck entrepreneur channel, right now. All right, welcome back to Food Truck Freaks. It is Damian Roberti, founder and CEO of Food Truck Freaks and Marketing Food Online. We have several YouTube channels dedicated to food entrepreneurship here on YouTube. You definitely want to check out those links down below. Our other channel has over 100,000 subscribers and over 1,000 food truck and food entrepreneur videos for you. So let's dive right into it, guys. If you're looking to create a food truck business in Colorado, these are going to be some of the permits and licenses and, of course, some other government documentation that you're definitely going to need to secure in order for you to actually do it legitimately. So let's dive right into it. Number one, your EIN, as everyone may or may not know, your employer identification number. Employer identification numbers, which are known as EINs, they are going to be the number that distinguishes your food truck under the eyes of the IRS when you start to actually file your taxes and handle all of your taxes at the end of the year, and of course payroll taxes and all that good stuff that's associated with taxes. You're going to need to definitely have an EIN, and those are easy to get. It's actually one of the free things, believe it or not, that you can get when you start your food truck business, aside from the paid amounts for your permits and licenses. So you can go directly to the IRS website, get your EIN, apply for your EIN, and then keep that documentation, of course, in your office or somewhere safe if you need. And definitely get that to get started. Number two, you need to get your business license. So depending upon the city and the county that you obviously are going to operate in Colorado, when you open your food truck business, you need to obtain, like any other business, a food truck business license. Now, these do vary by state and city. Of course, some of them range roughly around $75, maybe up to about $200. I've seen a couple states that are close to $200. But make sure you get that business license so you can operate within the city or county you're in. And now, other thing you want to think about, now this is super important when it comes to food truck businesses. Every state, of course, kind of dictates this, and they can create what they want with this. But the unique thing about a food truck is that you can travel from place to place. It's mobile, of course. But when you go from one city to another city and you're operating at an event, a farmer's market or a food truck event, whatever it may be, you need to make sure that you don't need to have a business license in that city as well. Some states require literally every single city that you're going to occupy with your food truck, you've got to apply for and have a business license, because you're actually technically, when you think about it, you're actually operating a business in that city or county, and they may need to obviously subject you to some type of taxation or business licensing and permitting. So make sure that you don't need to have that if you go from one city or county to the next city or county. Okay? Very, very important. All right, next up, driver's license. Now, of course, you're thinking, well, Damian, of course I need a driver's license. That's a no-brainer. There's a couple things you need to know. Number one, you need to make sure it's valid. You need to make sure also that it's not a traditional driver's license for a vehicle, but you are given a driver's license that allows you to operate your food truck. Believe it or not, too, some cities and counties will require a commercial truck license, not just your standard driver's license, by the way, but a commercial truck license in order for you to operate a food truck business in that county or city. So make sure that you've got a valid either commercial license or a traditional license that you can get from the DMV for your own personal use. The majority of states actually do institute that kind of a rule and regulation. Colorado, of course, within certain cities and counties, check to see if you've got to have that commercial license to operate your food truck. Because you got to understand something too, is that a food truck is not like any other vehicle. It's gigantic, okay? It's much, much bigger. It has propane tanks. You've got generators. It becomes a much bigger challenge to drive than just a traditional car, okay? So every food truck will vary, of course, in size and the different features, but it's still looked at in many cases as a commercial licensed vehicle, okay? Now, the other thing you need to think of, if you have an employee, or if it's other than you, if it's not you driving the vehicle, you need to make sure, too, that they have the same license. Because if they're driving your vehicle, your food truck, which is your bread and butter, it's your business, and it's a lot of money you got invested, maybe particularly you can't be there on a certain day, but you've got an employee driving it, they need to make sure they have a valid license as well. Because if they don't and they get into an accident, they park where they're not supposed to, and your truck gets towed, whatever the reason, they get pulled over by a police officer, it doesn't matter. But they get pulled over, or they cause some type of legal issue and they don't have a valid license, your truck is going to be impounded most likely, and that's going to cause an even bigger problem. So driver's license, it's not a game. This is not something you want to play around with. Make sure that you've got the right type and that it's valid, and anyone who's driving it has one. Okay. Next up, seller's permit. So food truck owners in some cities and counties must apply also for a seller's license. Now this allows them to actually buy food and other different types of ingredients at wholesale pricing without paying taxes on that. Now, in some situations, let's say if you go to a restaurant supply store, or if you have a vendor who's supplying you with vegetables, fruits, if it's meats, proteins, whatever it is, you need to ensure that you've got one of these permits so you're not being taxed if you have food sales tax. Some states actually don't. That you're not being taxed on that twice. Because when you buy the ingredients and you don't get taxed on it, you collect the taxes, if it's necessary, through the window of your food truck. Okay, when you sell it to the customer, you're going to put that tax on there. So you don't want to collect it twice. You don't want to be charged twice. So make sure that you need and you get your seller's permit. Next up, a food safety certification or food handler's permit. So now, the way this works is that in many cities and counties, there's a requirement for obviously the owner of the food truck, but more importantly, if you've got another employee, they may also need to have this certificate. Now, this is a food handler's permit program. Normally, you get the actual test. You have to go in person to take the test, but you can get the study materials and such online, and you study basically the food handling, what to keep temperature to keep the product at, how to store the food properly, how to serve it properly, how to sanitize the truck. Everything about proper food service is basically covered in these courses, and you're going to probably need one. The reason why I say probably is that every state, of course, has different rules and regulations, but it trickles down to the city. And most cities for food trucks are treated just like they are restaurants or cafes, and they need to have someone certified in food handling. Okay? Next up, you're going to need, of course, your health department permit, which is, of course, not issued until the health department inspects your food truck, make sure that it passes, and then you get a graded scale. I think it's 1 to 100, if I'm not mistaken. And that has to be, of course, pass. You have to pass that test of that inspection. And then from there, your health department will issue you your permit as needed. Now, keep in mind too, many of these licenses that we're talking about here and business permits, they need to be renewed every year. So these are kind of like annual renewal things. So you need to be aware of that too. Most of them are not done every 6 months. They're basically an annual permit renewal. Some of them, like the food handler's permit and things, they have a tendency to go for 3 to 5 years. So you'll have to renew that every 3 to 5 years. Okay? All right, so next up, a fire inspection. So you're going to need fire certificates. These are going to be issued by the fire department, who's going to come in and look at your food truck to make sure that all your propane tanks, all the electricity is functioning properly. You've got your generators on the back or inside of the vehicle. They're wired correctly. If you're working with diesel, gas, or even propane, all of that stuff is connected properly and that nobody has the potential to get hurt, of course. The fire department's going to look at that with a fine-tooth comb. They actually came in, they inspected our bakery. When we had our Italian brick and mortar bakery, it was treated just as a food truck would. They came in to make sure everything was properly working. Even in the attic and the roof, they want to make sure it's properly wired. There's no issues and such. So all in all, you want to make sure that you have all of these set up, because you will need to also get an either thumbs up or thumbs down from the local fire department. Now, next up, you need to get your trademark. Now, if you've got a logo, you've got a design, you've got something you want to legally protect, I would highly recommend you do this early on in the opening of your food truck business when you get started, because trademarks take a long time to get approved or denied, normally between 6 to 8 months. So you need to apply with the USPTO office, that's the United States Patent and Trademark Office, for your food truck trademark. Okay, so if you have a really cool logo, you've got something catchy that you want to protect, you need to get the wheels going quickly with that, because it takes some time for that to get approved. Okay, that's the branding aspect of your food truck business. Then lastly, food truck insurance. Of course, you need to have an insurance policy to protect your food truck, protect your product liability insurance, okay? And if you have employees and such, you're going to have workers' compensation, of course, as the states require, and so on. So you need to look into that. Of course, I'm not an insurance agent, so I'm not going to get too detailed about the policy, but all in all, you will definitely need to have a food truck insurance policy. Now, they normally run for food trucks, the price annually, I believe they're around $800 to $1,200 a year, somewhere around there. And it depends upon how you actually add on and what you add on to their policy and what is it you're covering. They have a tendency to be a little bit more, because you have the truck, which could have vandalism. You could have someone break into it. You have the breaking down of the vehicle itself if you wanted to get that type of insurance to cover the actual unit. You also need product liability in case somebody gets sick, or if there's an allergic reaction, if somebody eats some of your products and it's traced back to you. You've got to have these types of things in place. So these insurance policies will vary based upon how much you want to add to them. Now, many states actually, or cities and counties, will institute a minimum insurance policy, so keep that in mind. So you will have to get at least what they require for that, okay? So all in all, those are some great business licenses, permits, and such that you're going to need to get your food truck up and running right off the bat. Now, if you have any more questions about your food truck business in the state of Colorado, let us know down below. If you're new to our channel, check out these videos here. They'll pop up, and they'll give you some additional resources as well. If you've got comments as well, let us know. We'd love to build new content around your comments here on Food Truck Freaks. And I'll see you guys in our next video.